What's up, everybody? This is the Act Man here, and today, Halo Infinite is testing my patience. So, it has officially been 3 months since the multiplayer came out, and prior to release, 343 boasted that this was going to be a live service game, and my first thought was, oh no. Unfortunately, things have not turned out the way I and many other people have expected it to. Now, what is a live service? Well, think about games like Apex Legends, Destiny, Fortnite, League of Legends. Games that are free and get constant updates that bring new features to the table and keep the game ever fresh. In the years leading up to Infinite, we were told it was part of a 10-year plan. It's the start of our platform for the future. The next 10 years of Halo. No more sequels. In many ways, 343 has succeeded with making a satisfying game that feels like Halo and goes back to its roots. But they haven't succeeded in providing the live service they promised. That's what we're going to talk about today. But I hear you saying, Actman, what can we do about the state of Halo Infinite?
What can we do? What can we do?
You can subscribe to a different live service. A service of audio by getting a pair of the Raycon Everyday Earbuds. You guys know I'm a big fan of the Raycons. It's practically my catchphrase at this point, but I gotta tell ya how perfect and comfy these things fit in my ears. And the optimized gel tips will fit in any kind of ear. And yet no matter how many times I bash my head against the wall, they don't fall out. With 8 hours of playtime and a 32-hour battery life, I just might have enough time to beat the first boss in Elden Ring. The price is fair, and you're getting premium audio quality at half the price of other brands. It should be no surprise why Raycon's Everyday Earbuds have over 48,000 5-star reviews. So what are you waiting for? Get yourself a pair of the Raycon Everyday Earbuds today. And if you do, I'll give you 15% off your entire order if you use my super secret link in the description and pinned comment, buyraycon.com/actman. That's buyraycon.com/actman. Thank you, Raycon, for sponsoring this video.
And now for something completely different.
So the latest update for Infinite was recently announced. Some patch notes will be coming, and I'll end up changing this part of the video if those patch notes change anything. I'm back, and no, they did not. But being a mid-season update, expectations were high. So naturally, it turned out to be a series of minor bug fixes. And it's clear now that fans are more frustrated than ever. We expected more and are getting less. Now I'm going to preface a lot of my upcoming negativity with some positivity and hope. I, like many others, were very curious about what the fuck is happening, why it's taking so long to get new content and features, and why so many parts of the game are straight up busted. I have talked to someone with insider info, someone not working for 343, and I learned a lot of stuff behind the scenes. It's safe to say they're quite frustrated too. What I can say is, despite losing a decent chunk of their audience, Halo Infinite is still
very much alive.
I've got the deets on player counts for Xbox consoles, stuff that Microsoft doesn't publish. And it's safe to say there are still hundreds of thousands of people playing Infinite daily, across all platforms. It's just that a good amount of those players are not playing for very long. So in terms of player count, Infinite has kind of stabilized at its lowest point right now. So players are still interested, the gameplay has captivated me and many others, but there isn't enough there to keep people hooked. I can also say that I've heard about some pretty cool things in the works at 343 and in the pipeline right now. I think 343 could do a lot of good if they came out and talked about some of the new stuff they have planned, or give us a freaking sneak peek teaser. It would ease a lot of concerns and worries. My guess is they're saving most stuff for a massive push when Season 2 hits. It sucks that every Halo launch for the last 8 years has just felt like a goddamn waiting game. But trust me when I say I still have hope in this game and in 343. But then again, that's coming from what I know and what I've heard, not from the way they've been talking to people publicly. Now, let's dive into the pros and cons of a live service model, because it's a buzz phrase that gets a lot of people worried. Live service games are high-risk, high-reward endeavors. As a studio, if you meet the constant demand for new content, you will earn more. The more reasons you give people to keep playing, the better the chances are that they'll drop a fat wad of cash. Happy players equals happy spenders. Take care of me, and I will want to give you money. Let me give you money. Now, with games that are free to play, I think it's always a good idea to introduce new cosmetics with new gameplay changes. Because otherwise it's like, oh, the store is the live service part and not the gameplay. You know, you don't want people to start thinking that. New cosmetics should be bundled with new gameplay opportunities. Stevie Wonder could see where I'm going with this. A live service isn't a business model that every shooter should try to do, but if you succeed at it, you'll be able to sustain a large, healthy player base. And old players looking to check back in on the game will arrive and be like, whoa, look at all this new stuff. You guys have been busy. However, many people, myself included, don't have fucking patience for modern gaming and live service games that do not earn and keep our attention. So if you launch with less than half of the expected features, you better be following up right away, fixing and filling in those holes. Otherwise, you're on the fast track to becoming Anthem or Battlefield 2042. Games that make grandiose promises made by studios who trip over their own ambitions. They say stuff like, we're committed to maintaining a long, healthy life cycle of updates. Except they never end up doing that because they can't meet the demand or allocate enough resources to pumping out new content. So people lose interest. And when they lose interest, they move on to the next thing. Some of those people might come back. Some of them might never return. First impressions matter a lot. What it all comes back to, everyone wants that Fortnite money. The question is, do you know what they're doing to get it? The reason so many live service and early access games end up like dog shit and fail is because they're not selling you a complete game. They're selling you that idea. This is what the game will be like. We're so prepared to invest countless hours. Okay, we got the money. That's a wrap, boys. I guess we'll add one map every year and then just, leave it at that. All right, peace. Thanks for the money, assholes. If I'm spending my money based on a promise, I am gambling that money. I do not want to gamble my money on an experience worth my time unless that experience is gambling. Which is good that Infinite is free to play and didn't charge people up to $120 for the game. Did I mention fuck EA and DICE? Look, it's hard in game development to make promises and keep them when so much can go wrong. It's tragic. With all that being said, in 3 months, Infinite has added one new mode. Is that all we got, fellas? Wait, and you took it out? They can't even play it anymore? Uh-oh. Ignoring that Season 1 is lasting 3 months longer than initially intended and future content drops have also been delayed, I'm starting to question the promises 343 made and the basis of this foundation. You can have all these events with additional cosmetics and new battle passes, but if you don't give me something new to play, then it doesn't matter much to me. 343 has not succeeded in selling us a live service. Because there isn't one.
50,000 updates used to live here. Now it's a ghost town.
And I'd highly recommend watching Favian's video on this subject after this one. His takes are A+ on the matter, and will probably explain it better than I can. If we take an honest look at what 343 has done so far, they've adjusted battle passes in the challenge system, they've broken Big Team Battle, they've added more playlists, made Fiesta a staple, lowered the prices in the store, added a temporary elimination mode, made adjustments to the network, player collision, desync, and latency, updated the ranking system, and addressed various minor bugs. Now, when you look at all this stuff put together, the live service has basically just been 343 fixing things that shouldn't have been broken in the first place. Which is great. I'm not going to complain about fixes, but a live service game should take the finished product and run with it. What Halo Infinite has kind of done right now is started the race strong and then broken their ankles. And it's even worse when we find out there's more problems underneath the hood, like player rankings are totally compromised and anyone can manipulate them to get an easier matchmaking experience. The complete lack of any stat tracking or a service record, a separate progression system, commendations, these basic features need to come with the game and not as part of the live service. In fact, I just recently found a link to an actual service record site for Halo Infinite that shows a whole bunch of different stats and medal history, and I can't help but think like, man, if a couple guys can do this, Why hasn't 343 done it yet? When you look at patch notes for a game like League of Legends, granted Riot is a much bigger company and with more experience under this belt, but look at any update. They have some witty writing, they lay out the changes clearly, the buffs, nerfs, their reasoning behind it. They have a nice graph displaying cleanly what is happening in this update. It's informative, transparent, consistent, easy to read, and it gets me excited. Riot posts this stuff pretty much every 2 weeks. Infinite should have been prepared to do the same. It should have been a warning flag to everyone that 343 never published a roadmap, and even that had to be delayed. Our plans to plan things has been delayed. We're planning our plans, but we have to delay our plans to plan the plans. Does that make sense? Halo 5 had 2 roadmaps, one prior to release and one 4 months into release. So if you're going to launch Infinite in a very bare bones state, and if you're not going to update stuff immediately, then we at least need to know what the game plan is. I think we all expected way more playlists, new modes, variants at this point. I mean, at this exact moment in Halo 5's lifespan, we had 3 major updates and a 4th one on the way. That was in a $60 title that wasn't even considered a live service. I have no doubt that the support for Infinite will extend far beyond what Halo 5's did, but right now, Halo 5's beating you, Infinite. And think about this, for 3 months custom games have been broken, and yes, they're still busted, virtually unusable due to a large amount of bugs. For 1 month of Halo Infinite's lifespan, BTB was broken. So 343 put Infinite in a position, unintentionally, where for 1 month, 2/3 of the game was inaccessible to all players. This wasn't even a tech preview, the game was out. You can't provide a live service if you can't stand on the foundation. You know, releasing the campaign 3 weeks after the multiplayer isn't a live service. That's releasing the game. The reality of the situation, and the part that bugs me the most, is Halo Infinite missed its biggest opportunity to explode. On the positive side, it's an opportunity that will most certainly come again. Trust me. But for now, they missed it. After 2042 was a dumpster fire and COD Vanguard was sleep-inducing trash, there was no better time for Infinite to steal the show. And if 343 had prioritized community features, it goddamn would have. Free to play, launching on PC and Series X and last gen, and it's crossplay. Despite having over 20 million people try the game since launch, absolutely none of those 20 million people have been able to contribute to the game in any way. Me, for example, the day after Infinite came out, I was going to do a live stream and play some of these wacky custom games I was coming up with. And I would have been like, hey, check out this crazy mode. Go to my profile, you can download it and play it yourself. You can play it with bots, you can play it with your friends. The potential for me to tell my audience to boot up Halo Infinite and play this mode I came up with is an extremely powerful marketing tool. But I can't do that. I can't make content for this game and share it with others. Nobody can. This whole community tab is superfluous because nobody can save or share their modes. Theater works on rare occasions, but it's not worth using unless it works all or most of the time. Also, you can't share clips or screenshots in-game, so without Forge, custom games, file share, server browser, the player base has no tools available to create their own fun and share that with others. This is probably the biggest, most fundamental piece of Halo 3 and Reach's success, aside from just being fun games. So now all the chips are on 343, and the rest of us just have to sit and wait. 3 months from launch, and we're back at the how do we save Halo conversation again. A lot of this doesn't make sense to me as well because there is content already available, playable, and polished seemingly with little to no issues, but only available in offline mode. Attrition, elimination, attrition dodgeball. There's 4 extra variants for SWAT, and they've just been in the shadows for 3 months. Like, what are you doing? Put this stuff in matchmaking already. Right? 343 should be tweaking weapons, vehicles, modes, the maps. Here's some simple ideas to get people even just a little bit excited. Hey guys, we decided to buff the Ravager, Plasma Pistol, and Pulse Carbine since most everyone has unanimously agreed that these weapons are really bad and unfun to use. We've also put in random grenades into Fiesta so players aren't just spawning with frags. We hope this will further add to the chaos of that mode. We've heard your feedback on vehicles and have given extensive buffs to the Banshee. We've made the Warthogs more durable, given them 20% more health, and we'll be monitoring these effects. We agree that BTB Slayer matches are a bit too short, so we're increasing the score limit to 150. Stockpile is an interesting mode, however matches tend to snowball very quickly. We're reducing the number of power seeds that spawn and spreading them out across an area, instead of just dropping 10 on one spot. These are the type of minor adjustments that fine-tune a game and remove some of its more frustrating elements. Like, that's what I was expecting with a live service. We'll soon be coming up on the third major Halo Infinite tournament in Kansas, and the way things are looking, the game will still fundamentally be the same. This poses a major problem as I imagine the competitive crowd plays this game more than anyone else, and I've actually invited Lucid, pro player for Optic, to come on and give his thoughts on the matter. I asked him these two questions. What, if any, are the biggest hurdles Infinite's competitive scene is facing? Is the competitive scene still fresh for you and other pro players? If not, what could be done to make it fresh again?
I would probably say I'm probably one of the pros right now that's still like pleasantly happy with like the current state, even though I'm still pretty dissatisfied. I would say probably the larger portion of the pro players are still even more upset than I am. Freshness is there, but there's just tweaks that are so obvious or feel so obvious from a competitive standpoint for many of us that seem like it should take so little effort. Like you said, like we are the ones putting on the show and we're attached to this so closely and we're integrated with it so closely, and like we're 3 months into the game and I almost have 700 hours in the game. And the same goes for many other top players. Like we have a lot of time in this game, and like that counts for something. That doesn't mean change the entire game around us. It just means change at least what we are so integrated in, like at least mold or work with us somewhat. When you're coming off and openly talking about a live service game, like dude, I remember literally the first like year of Fortnite was like literally patches every single week. Now that might be the end of the spectrum of being quite excessive, and even many of the comp players for Battle Royale were probably very upset about just everything changing constantly. But like we've now reached a point of 3 months of no change, and it's like maybe we should be tuning this weapon with this amount of ammo, or this weapon with this amount of magnetism, or bullet magnetism, or aim assist, or whatever. It's like just minor tweaks to test some things out here and there that there seems to be quite a bit of talking about. And then if like it's not so good, or there needs to be some drawbacks and going back to the drawing board, like that's fine. But at least test some things out, poke around, and like get a feel for like what's to happen. Because like I think this is kind of how Halo 5 went, where they went so long not listening to pro players. A lot of the competitive scene, and I mean the casuals are already kind of like gone very quickly from Halo 5. Very rightfully so. But the competitive scene still kind of managed for a while, but you know, a lot of people still left that anyway because they weren't catered to, even though it was supposed to be like the competitive Halo. So it's like they're really trying to have everything, and then they're not doing anything to really keep everyone involved and integrated. Like the main goal that I want to see from everyone involved in Halo in general, 343, the community, pro players, whoever, casual player, is just a more natural conversation and integration in terms of like actual gameplay, like ideas and gameplay. And I want there to be a clear understanding and transparent understanding and dialogue to be had. Very much so.
All these things should be worked on simultaneously so that updates keep coming and they keep people engaged. You know what I mean? So if we hear about bug fixes, maybe shortly after, it's like, hey, here's this new weapon that's in the game now. Go nuts. You know, if we're stuck on bug fixes for 6 months, how are we ever going to arrive at Firefight or Playable Elites or Battle Royale? I got a reply from an X343 developer on one of my tweets, and this is what he said. The thing I will say about Halo 5 post-launch is by the end of those 6 months, we were extremely burnt out. Monthly releases like that were extremely unsustainable. Now, Patrick brings up a good point. The people behind the game are real people too, with their own lives. Right? We don't want them working in the coal mines like Treyarch, Sledgehammer, and Infinity Ward. But the inverse of this statement is now true for Infinite. The rate at which updates are being released is not sustainable for the player base, and the players are feeling burnt out. there is a price to pay for success, right? If I spend the next 3 days editing this video for 14 hours a day, I'm sacrificing the quality of my life in the short term for the sake of my work, which will increase the quality of my life in the long term. I think 343, you guys need all hands on deck for the next month or whatever until you can put out a substantial update, new playlists, new modes, a new map before the new season. Get something out.
Before it's too late.
It's bizarre too, because the goal is to make money, right? But even the store isn't properly optimized. You know, why is the business model for that based entirely around the fear of missing out? Let's say you drop the cat ears in the store for 2 weeks and everyone fucking loves them. Then you take them away for a month. Then you put it in the store permanently. That's a better business model, I think. The store should be growing in scope. But now it's like, oh, you wanted the cat ears? Pfft, too bad, you missed out. Okay, so I guess I won't spend my money then? It's free real estate, it's free money. Now's the part where I reiterate the importance of first impressions, especially in modern gaming where people's patience for botched launches is at an all-time low. Think about this, CD Projekt Red just came out with a huge update for Cyberpunk. That's great. But I'm done with the game. I don't want to go back, I'm not gonna play it. Maybe, if all of that stuff was there on day one, it might have mattered to me. That is the perspective of a potential fan that was not impressed. At a certain point in a game's lifespan, updates can only go so far in bringing people back that have already left. Players are overall unsatisfied with the content of Infinite, and some of them are not willing to wait around. You know, Halo needs to stand tall if it's going to weather the storm of competition. Elden Ring is almost here. It's probably out right now by the time this video comes out, but how many Halo players are going to swap to that, you know? Or the next game, or the one after that? If you want to turn a passerby into a dedicated fan, it's important to nail that first impression. In moving forward, I think it's important to look back and ask ourselves, why did Halo become so popular in the first place? I'm about to share the secret of this franchise's success with you, and I'll use an analogy to do it. Let's use Halo 3 as an example. It's like a giant statue that Bungie or the developers created. Now, where most games, the creators of the statue have to raise it themselves, with Halo, the community is able to do a good chunk of that lifting, right? We want to hold this statue as high as it possibly can. So you got the Griffball boys, and they're like, all right, guys, we're holding up this side. And then you got the Firefight gang, who's holding up that side. Then the custom game Chads and Forge crew swagger in, and they push the statue higher into the air. The co-op campaign homies arrive, and now they're helping out. The modders come in, they push a button, and a giant metal arm shoots underneath and pushes the statue even higher than what was previously imagined. Then the montagers and machinima crowd show up, and they provide stability support. Don't worry guys, we got your backs. Then the competitive ranked players come in, the pro players, and suddenly the statue is raised so fucking high off the ground that people looking at other statues can't help but turn their heads and say, what's that? What's that? It's fucking Halo. My point with all of this is that Halo is special because unlike most other games, the communities within Halo, big or small, all play a role in elevating the franchise beyond what its creators are capable of doing. They can actually create content for the game. But when we arrive at Infinite, so many of these communities that have held up the franchise in the past aren't here to help. So the weight is distributed across matchmaking crowd, the competitive scene, and the campaign enjoyers. So those people holding up Infinite right now are running out of energy and the statue is sinking. I don't know if that was like an absurd analogy or whatever, but do you get it? You know? All these elements work together in harmony. If you have a Forge mode, you can create maps and custom games. And if you have a server browser, then people can look for that shit without, inviting all their buddies. It's like they all work in harmony to create this incredible community. And that's the biggest strength Halo has. That is the type of foundation built to last 10 years. So I've invited some Halo content creators to provide further perspective. Huge shout out to each one of them. You can find their links in the description. I asked them this. It's safe to say the current state of Infinite is fun, but undesirable. What changes or new additions to Halo Infinite are most important to you right now, and the main thing that you play Halo for? Keep it realistic.
Yeah, I'd really like to see a progression system in Infinite, like a long-term Halo 3, Halo Reach, Halo 5 style progression system where you feel like at the end of every game, you're being rewarded for your performance and for winning the game, to give you an incentive to win the game, and also to provide you with actual tangible kind of rewards for going through those levels and winning more, like armor or weapon coatings or armor coatings or anything like that. Just a standard progression system that we've seen in countless Halo games and also countless other games to date. I think something like that would really benefit Infinite for me.
Okay, so realistically, more game modes. I think there's a severe lack of modes in Infinite right now. You know, BTB is my go-to. Playing BTB for more than 2 hours right now can be a little bit boring because, you know, stockpile on the same maps can just get very repetitive, and the fact there's only 3 maps is not the best. So more game modes and also more maps, I think, is like the number one thing right now that the game is in need of. I feel like once Infinite does get the content, it's going to be, you know, smooth sailing, but we're just not quite there yet, so it's a little bit tough.
Right now, one of the main things that the game needs, I think, is that social infrastructure. It needs lobbies, file shares, and reasons, I guess, to build a community and sustain a community like Forge. Right now, it feels like we aren't allowed to engage with the game unless it's with the developers say so, because they have not given us any of the tools to, like, I guess, start building the fun ourselves, like Halo 3 and Halo Reach, and even Halo 4 at least had Forge mode. Expand the list of custom games options, really focus on the Forge mode, as well as getting the file share out the door quickly. So we have to wait around for patches every few months to half a year. And it's just like we're starting to get impatient, you know? We'd prefer the tools so that we can design the game and curate it to be the way we want it to be.
Big shout out to Lucid, Hidden Xperia, UberNick, and Late Night Gaming. Go sub to their channels, check the description. In conclusion, Halo Infinite is testing my patience, and I will always be here as a Halo fan, but not everyone else will be. I am frustrated that I don't have the tools to promote the game in my own way, and I'm frustrated with the lack of content and transparency these last few months, but I hope 343 listens to all of this and gets better.
Listen up, Spartans. It's Steve Downs, the voice of Master Chief Sierra 117. Subscribe to the Act-Man for awesome content and finish the fight. Master Chief, out.